What's up YouTube? Jeff back again from DopeTechDaily.com. Today I'm bringing you guys my official full review of the LG G6, which is actually in stores available at all major carriers in the US today, so I thought it'd be a good day to drop the review. Now you guys know last year I wasn't a huge fan of the G5, didn't have the greatest build quality, I wasn't a huge fan of the whole modular implementation, but this year I can tell you up front LG has quite the winner on their hands. I'm going to try something a little different this time and do a little bit shorter review. You guys know I normally take 20 to 25 minutes. For those of you that are interested in my full thoughts on the device, I'm going to go ahead and post a written review on my site and link it below. I really want to get into writing reviews for phones because I can actually give a lot more detail, and then I can do the short video highlights for those of you who want that sort of format, and I can hopefully appease both groups. There'll also be an outline of the video in the description for your convenience. So the first thing I want to talk about is the build quality on the LG G6. It's phenomenal. You guys can see I got the ice platinum color here. It's got an all glass metal construction. LG finally gave us the premium device that we would like to have from them. You can see it's a little bit thicker than most flagships these days, but I actually like the extra thickness. It gives you something to hold on to, and also when you're holding it in landscape mode, it's really nice to have. You are going to get fingerprints on this. The ice platinum doesn't show them nearly as bad as the black. I definitely recommend if you don't like fingerprints or if you're OCD, definitely pick up this color over the black here in the US. You also are going to want to have a case for this if you're worried about scratches. It does have Gorilla Glass 5 on the back, Gorilla Glass 3 on the front, which I find a little bit weird, the mismatch. Not sure exactly why LG did that, but in my experience, Gorilla Glass 5, even though it's supposed to have some amazing scratch-resistant properties, it does scratch a little bit easier than Gorilla Glass 4 or Gorilla Glass 3, at least in my experience with the past few flagships. So if you use this without a case, you're going to pick up some scratches over time. Otherwise, I love the build quality of this device. Everything feels and looks seamless on the device. The device is just beautiful to look at and hold overall. Very impressed with what LG has created. It does have these rounded corners, as you can see right there. That actually helps with the impact absorption if you drop the phone. Shouldn't crack the display or anything like that. I've actually heard stories from people online who've already dropped their G6, and they've actually reported that there was no significant damage done to the display. It just sort of maybe dented the corner of the phone, but they didn't actually crack their display, especially the glass in the panel, which is the most important thing. Of course, the next thing that you'll notice about the G6 is the new 18:9 aspect ratio, super tall. For all you math freaks out there like me, that's 2:1 if you reduce that fraction. A lot of people are saying that the 18:9 is actually a gimmick. I have to disagree after using the G6 for about a month here. I have to tell you, I really like this form factor. It's nice and tall, but also narrow. Makes the phone easy to use with one finger if you're going to go through and navigate the interface. For me, it's actually very comfortable. It's also easier to put in your pocket if you're going to be carrying this around. You don't have to have a huge phablet like we saw in the past with a 5.7-inch screen in 16:9 ratio. But by the same token, you also get a nice big piece of usable screen real estate for watching media, for viewing multi-window, etc. I'm a big fan of this 18:9 aspect ratio. One thing to mention about the aspect ratio, and I said this in a previous video, I think on my 24 hours later video for the LG G6, is if you do watch videos in landscape mode, one thing you'll see here are these black bars on the side. So you can see right there, if you watch a video on YouTube, like my friend Max Lee's video he posted earlier today, you get these black bars on the side. That is a little annoying. To me, it's not a huge deal because I watch video on my iPad all the time and I get the black bars on the top and the bottom. I really do like the 18:9 aspect ratio. Another question that someone asked me about the aspect ratio is whether or not if you play games, if you can take advantage of the entire 18:9 aspect ratio in landscape. I actually tried Vainglory out, which I enjoy playing that game. You can take advantage of the entire 18:9 screen if you play Vainglory on this phone. Not all the games will take advantage of it, but LG has made it very easy for you to scale your apps to use them in the way that you would like. So if you go down to the options and go into display, you'll find the app scaling option. You can choose how you want to display each of your apps. So you can see full 18:9 if I choose here, standard or full screen. And you also have the compatibility mode, which is for the standard 16:9 aspect ratio. One thing I will mention about this is if you do use a third-party launcher, I use Action Launcher 3. That's what I'm going to go back to once I do the full review. Right now I'm still using LG's UI. You're definitely going to want to have that in 18:9. Otherwise, you're going to end up with some weird white or black bar on the bottom whenever you're navigating around your UI and using your launcher. Overall though, the screen, very nice IPS LCD display. QHD Plus is what Samsung and LG are basically calling this. It's essentially the resolution we've seen on previous flagships, but a little more at the top because it's extra long. It looks great. The colors look great. Not quite as saturated as an AMOLED panel, but I think the viewing angles are great. The brightness is very good out here in Arizona. Even in the sunlight, I've been able to see this display with no problem. I think LG has really taken everything about their previous flagships that was good and built that into the design, the display, and also the build quality of the LG G6. The next thing that I want to talk about with the G6 is the battery life. A lot of people have said that their battery life has been sort of middle of the road. For me, that's kind of where it's been as well. Just some background on my usage. I do get a lot of social media notifications for my YouTube channel. I get about 50 to 60 studio notifications a day for people commenting on videos, and I reply to those. You know, Twitter, Facebook, etc. I watch maybe an hour or two of YouTube a day, take maybe 2 or 3 phone calls, and I also have my phone paired to my Tag Heuer Android Wear watch. The G6 has been paired to it the entire time. With that kind of usage, I've been averaging about 4 to 4.5 hours screen on time. If I have a lighter day, I might be able to get a little bit better battery. I would say that's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but I would say it's pretty mediocre after having used it. You can see today, I haven't even had it on. I've got an hour and 37 minutes and I'm about halfway through. That's only going to get me to about 3 to 3.5 hours. I have been using it pretty heavily today with the notification, so with the screen on time there, and also playing some games, etc. But that's pretty bad, depending on the standby time that you get along with that. Again, pretty middle of the road battery life. It's not the best. But at the end of the day, it's also not much better on any of the other flagships that are out there. I think the Pixel is the one phone that stands out to me as being quite a bit better, but that's running, of course, a stock version of Android as designed by Google and not running LG Skin on top of it. That being said, let's talk a little bit about LG Skin. The new version of LG's UX is very nice and fluid. They've definitely refined it just like Samsung has, so it has a nice clean look to it. I'm still not a huge fan of the squared circle icons that they have. Doesn't look that great, doesn't look that uniform, but that's something you can change if you're a power user like me. Throw a third-party launcher on here with an icon pack. The top menu here with the quick settings looks super clean, and they've also decluttered some of their settings on the main settings page as well. The software does have quite a few nice features which allow you to take advantage of the 18:9 aspect ratio. One of those, which I'll talk about more in a bit, is the camera. You've got a little camera roll feature here on the side, so while you're taking pictures, you can actually see the other pictures that you've taken on the side. I'll delve into that a little bit more later. Also, if you want to do things in, say, multi-window mode, you can also take advantage of that extra screen real estate. So if you want to do YouTube and Gmail at the same time, you can do something like that, which is certainly a nice thing to have on this 18:9. Overall, I think LG's done a good job of decluttering their software. At the same time, they've now given you some options to take advantage of the new display size. And overall, it's not terrible to use. Again, I'm going to go back to a third-party launcher, but that doesn't really say anything too negative about LG's choices. It just says at the end of the day that I really like having that customizability, having a custom icon pack, etc. The next thing I want to talk about with the LG G6 is the camera. Now, the camera interface on the LG G6, again, has been made with a few of the 18:9 aspect ratio choices in mind. You can see that on the side here. As I mentioned before, you got the nice camera roll. Overall, LG's UI for the camera is well designed. You can see up here you can change from auto. You've got square, manual, and then also manual for the video as well. The manual video is one of the big strengths of LG's camera and also their camera UI. You've also got various modes as you do on any smartphone camera, including the popular food mode. If you go down here to the main settings, you can see you can change your photo size to take full advantage of the 18:9 aspect ratio as well. I've been shooting mainly my photos, as you can see, with the full 13 megapixels at 4:3. A lot of good options within the camera. Overall, let's talk a little bit about the quality of the LG G6 and the camera on this phone. The LG G6 camera is very good at taking daylight photos, especially macros like this one. Again, I'll link a lot of these photos below. I've posted a lot of them on Twitter if you guys want to check them out. It also does pretty well indoors, but you'll notice if you put it next to a phone like the Pixel that you'll see the difference in lighting. It captures great detail. So, for instance, this picture I took inside of the salad, it's got fantastic detail on the actual salad itself if you zoom in. but the lighting is not quite as good as something you would see from the Pixel XL. So to give you guys an example really quick, I'm going to switch over to the Photos app. A couple of photos that I took with both the Pixel and the LG G6. This is some lasagna I took at an Italian restaurant. This is the Pixel XL, and this is the LG G6. And even on video, I think you can probably see the difference between the brightness in the two photos. Both of them have fantastic detail. If you zoom in, you're going to see great detail on the photos. But the Pixel XL just does a much better job at capturing great lighting when you have a low light situation like inside of this dimly lit restaurant. Another example that I did with both of these cameras, if I can go back to photos here, that's the G6 and this is the Pixel. And again, I think you can see the huge difference in the lighting. If you actually zoom in, the detail again is great on both of them, but the lighting is much better at night with the Pixel XL. That of course is a function of the HDR+. Even if you do HDR on the G6, both of those were with HDR turned on, the dynamic range just isn't quite as good on the LG G6 as it is on the Pixel XL. So a lot of these photos I took, the macros, everything looks really good. Took some portraits, and I also tested out the front camera a bit here, taking some selfies, which I don't really like to do. But the front camera is very, very good on this phone as well. You have the wide angle, of course, which is one of the big selling points of the phone. That's one of the best things about this camera. The quality is not degraded very much if you take a wide angle versus a regular shot. And that's what I really like about it, especially on the rear camera. You've got that 13 megapixel sensor on both of these. And even the wide angle camera does pretty well in low light. So while neither one of the cameras is going to exceed the Pixel XL, it's still a very, very good camera. It's better than the G5. I think it's better than the Galaxy S7 and the S7 Edge. The only camera right now that I would rank above this is the Pixel. So maybe that's something that you want to consider if the camera is like your #1 factor when getting a new phone. The next thing I want to talk about is the waterproofing and other assorted features that the G6 has. It does have IP68 dust and water resistant. It does have 32 gigabytes of onboard storage here in the US. That's kind of a huge problem and one of the biggest detracting factors in my opinion. You do have micro SD slot, of course, but if you look here at the storage, I've loaded up some of my apps. I've only got 14.5 gigabytes remaining, as you guys can see. When I took this out of the box, 11 gigabytes was used already by the operating system. That's kind of ridiculous. 64 gigs should be the standard, and the G6 does have 64 gigs in parts of the world, which is kind of weird. The other thing I want to mention, the speaker on this phone is pretty mediocre. You've got a bottom firing speaker. It doesn't get that loud. It's okay in terms of clarity, nothing to write home about. But the other downside is that even though it has a headphone jack here at the top, that's great. I'm happy to see a headphone jack. But LG did not include the same hi-fi audio DAC that you get in other regions of the world. So the G6 in Asia, Korea, a bunch of other places all around the world, they are getting the hi-fi audio DAC. So there's these exclusive features scattered on the G6 throughout the regions. The US has got wireless charging, which is great. This model has wireless charging, but it doesn't have the hi-fi audio DAC, and it doesn't have a 64 gigabyte of storage variant, which means you can't get all of the great features of the LG G6 that you'd like to have. 64 gigs of onboard storage, you'd like to have that hi-fi audio DAC along with the QI wireless charging. Why can't we get all those into one phone? I don't know, and that's pretty annoying overall. So that's one of the biggest detracting factors for the G6, is that LG rolled all of these exclusive region exclusives into various phones throughout the world. It does have Quick Charge 3.0, of course, USB Type-C, which is great. A few other odds and ends. Let me take it to my Keep document here and just mention a few last things here. We talked about the build, the form factor, the display. The performance for gaming has been very good. It's got the Snapdragon 821. A lot of people ask me if this thing needs the 835 or should LG have waited. In my opinion, the answer to that is no. I've played a lot of Vainglory. I've played a lot of Super Mario Run. Those are the games I've been working on a lot lately. I've found this phone to be perfectly fine with the 821. It would have been nice to have the 835, but they did not have that option, with Samsung taking all of the 835s for the S8 launch. If LG had waited to release this phone, say in May or June, they would have completely been dead in the water with the S8 coming out first. So I've had no problems at all. Talked about the software, battery life, the camera quality, the speaker, waterproofing. Call quality, I've used the phone on T-Mobile. This is the T-Mobile variant. I've had very, very good coverage here in Phoenix. I live in a major city, so not a problem at all usually here. Overall, I think the coverage for T-Mobile is getting just as good as Verizon and AT&T, and the LG G6 is no exception. I'm definitely looking forward to testing out T-Mobile's new increased speeds on the Galaxy S8 later this month. Talked a little bit about the fingerprint scanner, the same usual scanner that you're going to get from LG on the V20. Very, very fast, very fluid and accurate. I've had no issues with that whatsoever. I talked a bit about the durability. My friend Zach from Jerry Rig Everything, he did test the phone. He found the phone to be very durable in his durability test. And again, I've mentioned a lot of people online have reported they've already dropped the phone on a corner here, and actually because it's rounded, that reinforced corner has prevented the screen and the display from cracking, which is great. So to wrap all of this up, the value for this phone at T-Mobile at $650. That's a little bit less, $100 less than the Galaxy S8. It's around the same size. Is this the phone for you? That's the question, I guess, that everyone wants answered. I think it really depends on how much you value the dual cameras, which is a big deal for a lot of people, and also how you feel about the Edge screen, because that's something that no one's talking about. A lot of people don't like the Edge display, and if you're one of the people that don't like the Edge display, maybe you want to go with the LG G6. Both of the Samsung flagships this year have the Edge display. I have some concerns myself about the fact that when you hold this in landscape mode, it's nice to have this tiny little bit of bezel there so you don't activate the screen. Of course, we're going to see how that goes with the Galaxy S8, but that is a potential problem, and if you don't like the Edge screen, that might be a reason to consider the G6. Also, as I said, the dual cameras are a good reason to consider the G6. Also, again, if you want to save $100, that's another reason to consider the G6. Some reasons that you might want to wait and see how the Galaxy S8 does with the reviews. Again, the camera quality is not quite up to the Pixel standards. The S8 may come close to the Pixel or even exceed the Pixel. We still got to get the initial shots from all the reviewers that are out there. I can't wait to get it in hand and test it. If you just don't like Samsung's UI and maybe you like LG's UI, that's another thing to consider. But overall, I definitely can recommend this phone. If you're an LG fan and you've been waiting to pick up the next great LG phone, this is definitely it. There's a lot of things that you might really love about this phone, especially the new form factor, which I think is going to be the future here in 2017. All right, guys, that's my full review of the G6. If you have a particular question that I didn't answer, drop it below in the comments. Also, please do check out my full written review, which I'm going to drop on my website. There'll be a link in the description. I appreciate you guys checking out this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content so I can make future videos like this. You can find me at dopetechdailycom, Google+, Instagram, and Twitter at the links in the description. Appreciate you guys checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.